It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of June 25th, 1993. We got three movies to look at today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump right on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan reuniting for the second of their three films together. And this one is the one directed by Nora Ephron. It's called Sleepless in Seattle. It's interesting the history of this movie because honestly, this movie almost never got made. This was actually conceived as kind of a romantic drama. It was inspired heavily by An Affair to Remember, which, if you've ever seen the episode of The Critic where Siskel and Ebert break up, they even point that out at the very end when they do kind of the parody of the climax of this movie, where where Roger Ebert just goes, "Oh, this is just a ripoff of Sleepless in Seattle," and Gene Siskel goes, "Which was in and of itself a ripoff of An Affair to Remember," and then they both say, "Which was not that good of a movie to begin with." Just another way for me to bring up The Critic. But I've never seen An Affair to Remember, so this is my first experience to this particular story. But I'm looking at the history behind this movie. A lot of studios actually rejected the script largely because of the fact that the main couple in this movie don't meet until near the end of the movie, which honestly I think is actually one of the pros of this movie, honestly. But this movie took a real long time to get made. The producer of the movie really believed in it. He actually had a hard time getting it made at TriStar Pictures because they found the emotional script promising but unsophisticated. And David S. Ward, who you know from Major League, and Nora Ephron, who When Harry Met Sally, were brought in to rewrite the script. And this actually was going to be directed by Nick Castle, who most of you will remember as Michael Myers in the original Halloween movies, but he also directed a movie that came out this week, and we'll get to that one later on. He actually left the film because he disagreed with the comedic approach of the movie. And like I said, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, this is the second time they reunited for the second of their three movies together. Of course, the first one was Joe versus the Volcano, and then the third one was You Got Mail, which came out 5 years later. As far as the movie itself goes, it's actually it's a really solid romantic comedy. I do like this idea that the two of them really don't meet until the very end of the movie. I think it actually plays out pretty well overall because you want to build this relationship up and you want that moment when they actually get together to be really special, and I think the movie does a very good job with that. The writing overall is very solid. There's a lot of great jokes, and you have a great cast involved in this. You got Bill Pullman. You see him in the trailer, as well as Ross Malinger, Rob Reiner, David Hyde Pierce, Rosie O'Donnell, Gabby Hoffman, Victor Garber, Rita Wilson, Carrie Lowell. Just a phenomenal cast of this movie overall. And the movie overall is just a really nice film. It doesn't have to do anything too crazy to make it to become a standout film. It just does a simple little love story that works out really well. And there's a lot of great jokes. There's a lot of great humor. There's a lot of great chemistry between these characters and how both Hanks and Ryan are supposed to end up together. And it's a nice little story. It's a nice comfort food romantic movie, and it's a very well made film. And I know a lot of people, seem to really like this movie. And honestly, it's hard not to see why, because it works mostly because of Hanks and Ryan. They just have this great chemistry that works so well, and the movie overall is just a great crowd pleasing movie. It's amazing to think that in a summer where Last Action Hero was the biggest bomb for Sony Pictures at the time, they put this there a week after to try to make up money for it. And sure enough, not only do they do that, but it actually becomes one of the biggest surprise hits of the year, like a hit that nobody really saw coming. And and like I said, you could definitely see why. It's a very pleasing and very enjoyable movie. Like, it's a wonderfully made film, a great direction overall, a great movie from Nora Ephron, who, I was gonna say this was her directorial debut, but no, the last movie she did was This Is My Life, which she directed first. But this was kind of the movie that jumped her into becoming more of a prolific film director, because she did this, she did Mixed Nuts, Michael, You've Got Mail, Lucky Numbers, Bewitched, Julie and Julia. This was kind of the movie that started that upward trend. And like I said, it's just a phenomenal movie. It works really well because of Hanks and Ryan and this great cast and the great writing, the great direction. It's just a great movie overall. It's a movie that, really, I've got nothing more to say about it. It's a classic film. It just works so well. If you haven't seen Sleepless in Seattle, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. Go and check this movie out. You will not be disappointed. With that said, let me go ahead and talk about the other movie that Nick Castle actually ended up directing, the adaptation of Dennis the Menace, written by John Hughes, produced by him as well. Honestly, that teaser probably gives you a good sum up of this movie because it definitely shows some promise. I mean, Walter Matthau as Mr. Wilson is perfect casting, but as far as the movie itself goes, it's pretty forgettable, and I think it mostly has to do with the main kid. Now, I'm not gonna blame Mason Gamble. He got the job, and honestly, he perfectly fits the role of the main character of Dennis the Menace. But I don't know. He seems a little too happy for his own good. I mean, it looks like he's overacting a little bit too much. Like I said, I can't really blame him for it. He won the role, and on paper, he probably is perfectly fine in this role. But man, his performance in this movie is way too over the top for this character, and I think that's one of the reasons why the movie doesn't really work as well. Overall, it's got a pretty good cast. Christopher Lloyd's in here, Joan Plowright playing Mr. Wilson's wife, Leah Thompson playing his Dennis's mother, Paul Winfield's also in here. I mean, written and produced by John Hughes, directed by Nick Castle. There is a lot of talent here, and I think that's the other reason why this movie works is because I think Warner Brothers, I think, only hired John Hughes to do a movie that's basically Home Alone, Diet Home Alone, like not the John Hughes that we know and love, like the John Hughes that can make all these different movies. It can pretty much make the same movie, but give it its own flair to make it stand out on its own. When you watch this movie, it's following the Home Alone formula a little bit too much. Like there are movies where this actually can work. I know that the next summer there's Baby's Day Out, which I think is a fantastically funny movie, and we'll get to that one later on. That movie as well has a lot of Home Alone-ish type of moments in there, but I think it's much more funnier than this movie is. I think this movie is trying a little too hard to. It's trying a little too hard to be another Home Alone movie, but and not a Dennis the Menace movie because Dennis doesn't really do a whole lot in this movie that makes him kind of a menace. He does like the typical things like you see in the trailer. He does the thing where he flicks the pill inside of Mr. Wilson's mouth, and like he shoots a flaming marshmallow at his head. Like stuff like that is there, but I don't think that was really the main focus of the movie overall. I think the script really could have used another rewrite to be more kind of like the comic books or the animated TV series at the time. I mean, the animated TV series was a lot of fun. I remember watching that as a kid, but even as a kid watching this movie, I was just kind of like, yeah, this really isn't selling me all that much. It's a movie where the intentions are there. There are brief flashes of potential and promise, but yeah, it just didn't work for me. It's a movie that's kind of like it's there and it's instantly forgettable. Like I really don't remember a whole lot, but the stuff I did remember about it was not that great. So that's Dennis the Menace for you. Not a great movie, and certainly one of the first real misfires for John Hughes overall. With that said, let's move on to the last movie, and that is House of Cards. Obviously not the Kevin Spacey series from Netflix, and certainly not the David Mamet movie House of Gains, which I thought this was at first, but obviously that's a different title. Pretty much that's the plot right there. This mother moves her family back to their house in a quiet suburb, hoping to put the past behind them. And while their son is able to adapt, her daughter is apparently traumatized by the experience and starts displaying this unusual behavior, including building an elaborate tower from playing cards and photographs. And then Ruth is later court mandated to see this guy, Jake Bierlander, played by Tommy Lee Jones, an expert in child autism, to help her daughter. And what's interesting about this movie is that that movie was actually supposed to be released by Fox, but they delayed it for so many years, and then it actually premiered at the Sundance Film Festival without a distributor, and Miramax ended up picking it up, and that's how it came out as it is. And the movie doesn't look all that good. I should take that back. I mean, the movie could be good because of Tommy Lee Jones and Kathleen Turner, but from the reviews I've seen for it, it's a very mixed bag. Like, you see a couple of reviews where it is promising, but then you see a review like Roger Ebert's where it says it's all but inexplicable. If it's not interesting, intelligent, plausible, thought-provoking, entertaining, or necessary, the synopsis is so absurd it would also seem to be unproducible. I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, it could be good, but I haven't heard a lot of great things about it. Don't even know too much about it. I can't really say anything about the movie itself because I haven't seen it, but I mean, it definitely could go either way. It definitely could be a movie that could be pretty good, or it could be a movie that's another Oscar baitish type movie. And I don't know. It's not something I want to rush out to see, but I don't know. Maybe one day I'll definitely check it out. But that is House of Cards. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll delve into the movies of 4th of July weekend, 1993. Halfway point of 93 already. We've got Tom Cruise and John Grisham's The Firm, the re-release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Pauly Shore in Son-in-Law. So 3 movies to look at next time around, and we will delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.